Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm your host, Laura Jones.
And I'm Jason Gaikowski.
And we are Opinion Party. And today's Opinion Party, we have invited a special guest, John Sabine, Director of Social Media for Merriam-Webster. Welcome, John.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to talk to you all.
So today's topic is going to be about trust. And Jason, as we are a pod that aims to dispel marketing myths through the cold, cruel lens of data, do you want to hit us with a few pieces of data that got us here today? Why Merriam-Webster? Why are we talking to John today?
Merriam-Webster. All about trust. I love talking about this. John, I feel I have to preface this true story. One of my managers, some number of years ago, they said to me, Jason, you one day would be an outstanding leader of a company, but not an outstanding leader of an agency. You are way too honest. So I share this, just cold hard facts, the cruel lens of data. John, I got to say, congratulations. Merriam-Webster shows up in our 2024 BAV research study. Top 20, number 20 among the nation's most trusted brands.
That's great.
Absolutely, congratulations.
Well, thank you. I mean, we have so many people to thank. But no, that's great. Top 20. I mean, we'll get top 10 next year. We'll try harder.
All right, good. Try harder. I like that. Look, I mean, and I want to put this in context for you, right? Like, trust is this really, really kind of interesting component of a brand. It's something that everybody wants. It's something that is kind of easy to get, right? In our research, it's one of the perceptions most commonly attributed to a brand, yet it's really easy to lose. And what we can see in the data over the past 21 years is across the board, there has been a 20% decline in trust. But when we look at the most trusted brands, when I look at the top 200, top 250 brands, the top 2%, 10% of brands in the nation, you've seen roughly double that decline.
Wow.
Right? The United States, 21 years ago, we've lost half the trust, even among Americans in our own nation. Right? And despite that, Merriam-Webster hanging out in the top 10. And let me tell you, John, you've got some amazingly illustrious company. Coming in at number 1 in our study, St. Jude Research Hospital.
Oh, I guess they're okay.
Right? An exceptionally high attribution rate for 2024, coming in at 44.59% perceptual attribution on trustworthy. Right? Then you get just this amazing collection, the Mayo Clinic.
Okay, well, fine.
Right?
Fine. Well,
various branches of the U.S. military. Apparently we trust the military, but not our country. I find that absolutely fascinating. The National Weather Service. Breast Cancer Research Foundation.
Wow.
The very first commercial brand, Rubbermaid, comes in as the number 1 corporate brand, right?
I
Killing it.
I get it, yeah.
Followed immediately by Merriam-Webster, number 20
Whoa.
overall, clocking in at about 30% in our research study.
So
right?
Rubbermaid
absolutely
and us.
fantastic.
Okay. Whoa.
Rubbermaid and you.
Yeah.
Coming after
Right?
you. Rubbermaid, we're coming after you.
You're absolutely killing it. I don't know. How you doing this? How you pulling this off, John?
I
Trust is going to hell everywhere in a handbasket, and yet you're standing proud, standing tall. What gives?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I have my thoughts, and who knows if they're correct, but I do think longevity, like we're an old company. Like I bet you, I would love to know the youngest company with the highest trust. Like we've been around since 1828, which like is long. You know, that's a long time. And I think having that longevity and having that just being kind of in a lot of people's lives for that long, like Merriam-Webster's been a part of my life since I was a kid, my parents' life since I was a kid. I think that helps, like because you know there's something very comforting about something that is around for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Take us back a little bit to 1828, was it?
1828?
1828. Well, set the scene. How does one become...
Noah Webster? No.
Why was trust important back then for language, for dictionaries?
I do think there's a great thing is like dictionaries were relatively like Merriam-Webster is the first American English dictionary, so which is different than like British dictionary, right? Like the reason we don't spell color, honor, favorite with a U is because Noah Webster abhorred silent letters that didn't have, meaning. He also wanted to spell tongue T-U-N-G, and it didn't catch on. And I think it should have caught on.
No magic E, as my daughter fourth
But he
grade
wanted
would
it
say.
to. So he wrote it to be, this is a new nation, and he wanted to reflect how people were writing and speaking of the time. And I do think the fact, and I will say this, like, it was a big undertaking. It took decades to do. And I feel like the fact that how I view it when I was a kid, just to going back 20, but I view this as like a public utility. I used to view the dictionary as like a public utility kind of like, oh, it's a public service. Like I'm looking it up that way. We're not. We're commercial, but I do think joining the company, there is an ethos of that, of like, this is kind of like, we're not the Capital One venture dictionary, no offense. Like, it's like, we want to keep it as scholastically pure and unbiased as possible. And we really want to make sure that we reflect how the language is used. We are descriptivist dictionary, which means that we describe how people use it. We're not prescriptivist, which is saying you should write and talk like this. There's a little bit of a difference here. Other dictionaries are saying this is the right way to do things. We say, hey, people do it this way. This is more accepted, but we're less likely to weigh in on right and wrong, like right and wrong ways to do things, if that makes sense a little bit. And I do think having that, being a descriptivist dictionary, has helped with our trust, because we're not scolding you, and we're not trying to put ourselves on a hill saying, English should be, for the elite, and it's not this, everything should reflect Latin. No, we're saying languages change. It's of the people. It organically changes. It's very fun that it does. And so whenever we release like a new update, it's kind of like a snapshot of how the language is used, because words change over time.
So more urban dictionary, less Grammarly.
A little bit, I guess that helps. Yeah, I mean, truly, but like, but I do think like it does. I will say, like, I really want to stress that it does. The amount of scholarship that goes into every entry is like through the roof. It's very similar to how it's been done for, since the beginning. We have editors, and they do citations, and they sometimes they work on note cards, sometimes they work on computer. It's very like it's very how you would imagine.
Academic sounds like.
Very academic.
Yeah.
It's very no frills. So because we want to stand by that work, and I think like keeping that level of scholarship also has helped our trust. Our editors are incredibly, the smartest people I've ever met in my life. Like, truly, like I'm always like, oh man, I'm a fraud here.
Well, I want to
and curious. They're very curious about language.
Yeah, well, it's used a really wonderful phrase thinking about Merriam-Webster as a kind of public service.
Yeah,
right. I want to touch on that for a moment. Then you built on that, talking about the kind of academic integrity that sits behind the public service. From what I see in the data, I think that thematically really, really comes true in terms of the brands that are really, really trusted today, in contrast to 21 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like, my goodness, St. Jude Research Hospital and the Mayo Clinic. Right?
That's...
Like, nonprofit healthcare organizations kind of operate as a bit of a public service.
Yes.
Military organizations operate as a public service, right?
Yeah.
A high-integrity, academically based research organization, which is what Merriam-Webster is a kind of public service, right? Mm-hmm. And what I think is interesting is if I draw a contrast to that, right? Because if you look at newspapers, magazines that 20 plus years ago operated with a responsibility towards public service, as they've shifted to a more commercially driven model, what we can see in the data is, and I don't use these words lightly, the absolute obliteration of trust in media brands, in publisher brands, in brands that are chasing engagement and entertainment as opposed to operating in the space of public trust, right? So it seems to me like you've got this really amazing, like, authentic asset that makes it likely that you're going to continue to be able to maintain trust even as those around you continue to fall.
I mean, I hope so. Like, I really do hope so, because I also think it's more interesting just to work on. Like, you know, it's with regards to, like, I don't know if, like, setting forth to gain trust is, like, the goal sometimes, but I think if you're following the right goal, it's a great symptom of, or a great, like, you know, it's a byproduct of doing the work the right way and being intellectually honest and curious and like not being afraid to reflect how the language is spoken. I do know that, like, one thing that, again, this is me anecdotally. This is my vibes. This is not like
all the vibes. Bring all the vibes.
But in the 90s, our president, this is again way before my time, decided to put the dictionary on the internet. And at the time we sold dictionaries, and that seems insane in the moment. I imagine if you're selling dictionaries and like, hey, just put the whole thing here. You don't need to buy it now.
Skip the CDs. Just go straight to the internet.
Just go right there. You're gonna. And so, but I think that was very prescient. Like, I think that was very. I would never have thought that far ahead. And being able to, and I think it does go back to when the Merriam brothers started publishing the Webster dictionary. They kept Webster on the title, which at the time was rare because he wasn't writing it. The new editors were writing it, but it was almost like one of the very first American branding. Like, people trusted Noah Webster's dictionary, so they bought the rights to it and kept Webster's on there. In fact, Webster's son wrote them and said, "You need to take my father's name off of this because he's dead. He's not writing this." And they were like, "With all due respect, no, we're going to keep it because it'll help us." You already have it's like a brand that people trust. But their goal was to always get the dictionary down to the masses, how you can get it cost effective and cheap. And I got down to the first paperback, I think after World War II, was like 25 cents. And that was like huge because anyone could have it now, 25 cents paperback. And how do you go lower than 25 cents? You go free on the internet. And I think that I think is a huge step towards this whole public utility of being, you know, here you go. If you want to know a word, go look it up. Like you can go look it up right now. There's no pay. We do have subscription services for unabridged edition. Of course we have that. We offer tiers, but if you want to look up the majority of our collegiate, go look it up, and you'll get to not only get the definition, you'll get its first known use, you'll get the etymology, and I think that helps us understand our culture a little more. We understand more about the words of how we communicate and build the culture.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I love the fact that you put it up there, and I'm like, that's the best.
Yeah, well, I love the contribution to the Commonwealth.
Yeah, and again, I was a fan before I worked here, right? Like, it was, I would like, I don't know, am I using them used correctly? I don't know. Like, and I would type it in and go, oh, I've been using it incorrectly. Oh, look, enough of us have been using it incorrectly that it now kind of means what we all were using it incorrectly as. Like, that's perfect. Well, that's interesting. And so I feel like the fact that it's so easy and quick and you can do it, I view it personally. It was a positive in my personal life before I worked here.
Yeah, and
again, I don't know if it's St. Jude's level positive, but it was very positive.
Well, absolutely, and the democratization, it sounds like, of access to knowledge, access to literacy, all of those things really sound like there was a visionary element to, even down to the branding, right? Keeping consistency of naming is something that of today we would say, oh, of course, but back in the time, turn of the century, when I imagine newsies were selling papes in the streets, having that vision to hold that forward. And then the recognition and that brand living on, hundreds of years later, definitely all contribute to that consistency and trust. Absolutely. And, juxtapose, I love what you were saying about the rigor behind which the dictionary is produced. And we were looking at some data. In fact, Merriam-Webster is much more trusted than Wikipedia, which is something that has similar aspects. One could argue it's online, it's democratized access to information. However, Jason, what's your take from a data point of view on Wikipedia?
Well, Wikipedia is, and I was surprised by this, Wikipedia carries about 1/3 of the level of trust that Merriam-Webster does. Like in the in the total brand rankings, in contrast to where you guys are weighing in, Wikipedia is hanging around in the 500 or 600s.
Wow.
Right now. Wikipedia is still beating out mainstream television brands like CBS, been around for a long time, had that same icon. Oh yeah, CBS? What, are you kidding me? I mean, CBS, look, if I go to the Wayback Machine, if I go back 21 years, CBS's level of trust at 32.74 attribution percentage compares very comparably to Merriam-Webster today, right? 32.74. You're actually slightly ahead of where CBS was 21 years ago.
Oh my God! Take that, Jeff Probst, season 1 of
In those 21 years,
God,
CBS has lost about 40% of its trust.
Oh, that's kind of yeah. I don't hope that's.
I mean, if you think about, if you think about the most trusted automobile brand in the world, right? Like, we ought to trust an automobile brand, safety, security, getting us from point A to point B. Toyota, absolutely positively the most trusted automobile brand in the data. You are hanging out in the same space as Toyota was 21 years ago.
Oh, well, that my pre-owned Camrys.
Toyota's lost about 25% of its trust over the past 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and maintaining trust is no small feat, right? I mean, you can imagine all of the things that happen to erode trust, especially now that people can just go online and just say whatever they want about a brand. Yeah. I'm curious if you're willing to share, if you're aware of any. Have there ever been times in the Merriam-Webster history where you faced challenges to your trust, or?
I don't know. I'm sure it has happened. Unfortunately, like, from my social lens, I have not uncovered any of that. Not to have a boring answer, but no, I don't. There, with regards to challenge, I do think every day is like there's a challenge every day, because if you exist online, the online internet moves fast, it moves quick, it's very easy days, and you don't know what's going to happen. If you can have something scheduled to, like, oh, this would be great, and then all of a sudden there's a fire, and it's like, oh, I was going to do the definition of pyromaniac, I shouldn't do that because there's wildfires now. You have to be kind of, it's so easy to, because you're talking to the world. And I think one way to, like, I'm behind the keyboard, I'm doing all of our social stuff. I'm constantly aware of, like, how easy it is to lose trust, and that is a daily, moment-to-moment concern that's in the back of my mind. And so, whether or not you're going to lose it, like, on, like, not like a huge scale brand, but, like, just in terms of one-on-one connections, because that's what the internet is trying to connect with one-on-one, some people to the group, and then one-on-ones. How you can make sure to protect that, because it is very important, and we take it very important. Like, if we want people, if you don't trust us online, you won't trust our dictionary, and that's how I view it. Like, it is a duty. I've really a sacred duty, I think that it is, and so I'm constantly aware of it. Like, it is like I stay up at night worried about it.
Well, look, sure. I think there's a heck of a lot of brands that could really, like they really learn an important lesson from the kind of, I mean, I'm going to use your words, the kind of sacred duty that you feel towards preserving and maintaining Merriam-Webster trust. I mean, the level of trust that you have now would have ranked you about 400th 20 years ago. That means that there are 400 brands that perhaps, maybe, have not taken the duty as seriously as you have, right?
Whoa.
And have seen precipitous declines and erosion of their trustworthiness showing up in the data.
Yeah, and
right. So I think maybe you get some tips and some lessons to teach people.
John, you mentioned trust can be canceled overnight. And it sounds like you do create trust through a series of decisions and micro actions. So that's really important.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of brands, and again, social's very specific. The internet moves so fast. It's like so different than like even like 20th century marketing stuff, I think. Like, it's so hard to, it's very murky. And I think a lot of brands often like they don't engage. A lot of people are off stuff right now, or they just do it's just like paid. They just do like, they're not trying to have these one-on-one connections, which I like. No, don't fault them, but I think if you want to build trust, it isn't just not making mistakes. Like it's not just avoiding sins of commission, or I guess it's just not sins of omission where I'm not going to engage, so then I can't make a mistake. I think it is like building trust. It's not just refusing to lose it. You have to actually start building it with people. And how do you do that? By meeting people where they are and talking to them how they do without losing your authenticity. And I think that's what's very hard with the internet, because like we're a dusty old book, essentially. Like we are purposely not cool, and I think like that's good. Like 'cause let's be honest with what we are, and I think that's really tough for a lot of brands. We are very hinged. Like I cannot stress to you enough. And most brands online try to be super unhinged and salacious, and we also like just want to make sure that like we are. If you have an idea what the dictionary is, if we subvert your expectation, that feels uncomfortable. And I think like brands need to start like acknowledging how people think about them and meeting people at that perception a little bit. You can still be like ambitious and be like, no, this isn't, this water's going to change the world. You're like, okay, well, like you're still water. But like it is, I think that's been a big asset to us, is that people do have an analog relationship with our dictionaries, a long relationship with our dictionaries, so they know who we are. And then our goal is to comfort them by being, hey, we are kind of still like that, even though we're on the internet or doing memes. And we're going to build your trust by having this interaction with you. Like, let's talk, let's learn something together. And that's been kind of our daily social mission.
Yeah.
Is to like have these connections and be like, this is interesting. Let's both learn about this, as opposed to like, did you know? Because half the time I'm learning it as I'm doing it. I'm like, I don't know that. I find that interesting. But I do think that's a big distinction in not just losing trust, but also taking the effort and figuring out creative ways to build it. Because it's very fun. It's more fun that way, too.
Absolutely. And John, you keep it really fun. For people that don't know, John is the voice of Merriam-Webster's social. And the social voice, winner of a few Shorty Awards that we hear. Congratulations.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, the Shorties.
And so,
take that Mayo Clinic.
Yeah, right. So you talked a lot about how your use of social media contributes to building trust. And we noticed an interesting sort of juxtaposition in our data. So Merriam-Webster, one of the most trusted brands in culture. Social media brands and platforms, not so much. So Jason, you want to expand on that a little bit more? And then I'd love to hear, John, your perspective on, what it's like building trust on platforms that, according to our data at least, have an inherent untrustability baked into them.
Yeah, this is, I love what you said a moment ago. You're highly committed to being hinged.
Yeah.
And highly committed to not being salacious.
Yeah,
and yet you're doing so in an environment that rewards and encourages salacious and unhinged interactions. Right?
Yeah,
like I find that
right?
super,
the word
super
engagement is interesting, right?
Right. The word engagement is interesting, and what our data shows. And in fairness, the exception to the rule is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, among social media brands, they do pretty well. They show up in the top 25% of, about 2,800 brands overall. Beyond that, social media is a very, very low trust environment. Snap, Pinterest, Instagram, X or Twitter,
Pinterest?
Both Pinterest, Facebook, Reddit, Truth, all in the bottom 15% of all brands, right? The social media.
When you think of like Twitter, it's people like, oh, I don't trust. It's like the actual platform, right? That's what this is saying. Okay.
Yeah. Those actual platform brands. So social media brands, in and of themselves, are not garnering a high degree of trust.
Yeah.
Right. I think that one might speculate that the way they facilitate and even incentivize outlandish, outrageous, enraging,
Absolutely.
fear, anger, unhinged, salacious interactions in the name of chasing engagement may, in this man's perspective, contribute to a low trust environment. So the fact that you are building a high trust brand in a low trust environment, this is absolutely fascinating to me.
Oh.
How are you
Walk us
doing
through
it?
that.
Okay, well, I mean, again, one man's opinion. You know, like, I'm sure someone could.
That's what the data says.
I do think, though, that
The results. You got the results, my man.
I mean, it is opinion party, so all opinions are welcome.
my opinion at this party is that social media is a high fructose corn syrup world, and people need some fiber and some vitamins. And I think there's a real hunger for like honest knowledge that is kind of not. I wouldn't say wholesome. I wouldn't go that far, but like not trying to be like sexy or shocking. In a way to get engagement, but something that is like, oh, that I actually feel like I was a nerd. I ate something that was, oh, good. I've had a bender of a weekend. Let me have some carrots. Like, you know what I mean? And like being on the internet's like going on a bender, and then like being like, I'm gonna have a V8, you know, and like we hope to be that V8, you know, like, and I do believe personally that there is a real thirst and hunger for it. I really believe that because, and we see it like. We see the shares when we bring things to Instagram that are like the things that do the best are truly just text-based knowledge things or language things. Those do better than videos or memes or anything. The things that do the best are here's something interesting that's doesn't look great, like it's just text. It's basically a mocked up tweet. That's it. We've tried to put it with pictures. That isn't. Just text, which again, we are a book of text. Like, it's kind of true to what we are. We are just a book of words put together. Sure, there used to be a couple pictures every now and then, but it's very rare. And I think that, so being, true to ourselves and also like noticing that like, hey, we don't have to try to shock you for this. And again, I think we are lucky because people know what we are. We're not trying to introduce ourselves while we're talking to you. And so I think when you see these salacious startup, like I think it usually goes to startups or newer companies because like they have to get to, no one knows who they are. So it's like, that's a creative way in. But we won't engage in like popular memes or stuff that wouldn't ring true for us. And it's not even like a inappropriate thing. It's just like, that would bum me out if I saw like the Department of Defense doing like a dabbing challenge. You know what I mean? To be like, oh, that's just like a bummer. Like,
yeah.
I'm not even like really mad. I'm just kind of like, oh, like the internet is just like, and if you like just think about, we're all on it, right? Like when you see a post, you're like, oh, man, that's a bummer. I don't want to see that. You know, life's already messy. I don't need to see that.
Taking the high road, it sounds like it is a brand choice. So, yeah.
But high road and low road indicates to me like a morality when it's really like,
fair.
I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if you do that. Like, Duolingo can do things that I can't do. We're both language companies, but like, good. I don't like knock them for doing it, right? Like, I think that's them. You know, it's more like just being authentic to who you are. Because when you say high or low, I think it can sound like we would never, you know, and it's less that it's just that it's not right for us. And I think knowing what's right for you as a brand is huge because I think authenticity is truly the only currency right now that kind of works. Again, opinion.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm always open to challenges and corrections. And I want to talk about words a little bit more too. Are there words that are your go-to? Do you have them posted up on the wall next to the screen that are the words that inform the way that you engage with people on the social channels?
Oh, like that's a great question. So so like we don't.
I wanted to avoid saying brand voice, but you got me.
I like brand voice. That's fine. So like we tend to type like we try to use as correct grammar as we can. You know, like we're not a style guide. Like, so it's like, it's okay, but we're not gonna like, well, we would probably say kind of as opposed to kinda. You know, that's just us. You know, we'll write out the word. We try to be correct. You know, when the dictionary has a typo, oh my gosh, it's the worst. When it happens. Like if I write a lot as one word, oh my gosh, goodbye. cruel world.
I'm the kind of
but
person that used to read the dictionary to find the typos, so I appreciate that.
Oh, we appreciate that, actually. It's like there's people who write in and find them on our website, and we always go, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll go correct it right now. So we do talk, we try to talk in a sentence case with using the words correctly. We're not going to talk in all caps unless it's purposeful. Whenever we do types of, incorrect slang, usually it's in reference to, a well-known meme. So, we do, close laptop till Sunday meme, that you see on Fridays. Till we wouldn't do it that way, but to match the meme, I do it that way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If it's to reference
Colloquial.
something, I want to speak the dialect that people are speaking. If people are using the Vosotros form, I will do my best to use the Vosotros form, whatever, on the internet. And so without being a total masquerade of who we are. But yeah, so we'll try to speak the dialect without changing our accent, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just love that you dropped the word Vosotros on us. Are we conjugating verbs here?
I just remember learning that in Spanish and then being like, "You'll never use it." And I'm like, "Well, why are you telling me this?" I would love to use the Vosotros form sometime. I've never had an opportunity to. But
congratulations! Here at the opinion party, you can drop
important.
those kind of words.
Exactly. I never thought that, but I do think it builds trust to have that level of thought. I think you have to really think about that stuff. I used to run the social for Velveeta cheese. No big deal, humble brag. But we spoke in all caps. And I remember they would be like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Because we're it's Velveeta. It sounds like a scream. We're inauthentic. We're processed. We're not natural,
but never cheesy." Was that in the?
Yeah, we're loud. It's and so that's why it's the color's bold. And so we talked in all caps. They actually we won that one. They let us do that.
Yeah.
And so Clausen, we did all lowercase. That's the logo. It's cool. So I think you have to really think about that stuff. Does it matter? Who knows? But I think it does. It doesn't hurt the trust if you think about that. I view it that way.
What does a pickle sound like?
Right?
That is just absolutely fascinating. And does Merriam-Webster have an official point of view on puns, I wonder?
We love puns. Wordplay, we love it. Now, we don't do it often, but and being playful, I think, is also I think humor online. Wendy's, God bless them. Everyone thinks when a brand is funny, they're kind of being mean. And no, humor is being playful. You can still be playful and intellectual or smart, and without punching down. You don't ever we try to never punch down because that's the last thing people need.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, you can still be playful with the words as long as it's purposeful and not misleading. That's always, you don't want to totally mislead with the word with joking. So they're that the dictionary says this is correct.
I love that you brought up play because I'm gonna switch topics a little bit to spelling bees. Right? When I think of dictionaries,
love the spelling bees.
I think of spelling bees. Can we talk a little bit about how spelling bees play into the overall narrative of the brand, of trust, and is it really even important for kids to learn how to spell anymore?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. Well, I was terrible at spelling bees as a kid growing up. Very bad at them. Probably still am. But I do. So we've been the official dictionary of the Scripps Spelling Bee, and they use our dictionary for, the big one. Our editor, Peter Gaikowski, is one of the judges, and he also is on the committee that picks the words they're going to use every year for the spelling bee. And so I love it because I do think a love of language and a love of words is help. I personally find it very interesting, and just not only interesting, it helps me form my thoughts. When I find out there's words I love that Schadenfreude. We don't have that in English, but there's ideas and thoughts that we don't have words for that exist that I wouldn't know unless this German word existed. And that's now I know what that means. I think that is important. Now, if people misspell things, great. I think we're so. I think if you ever met a dictionary editor, they are so
forgiving, chill.
Yes, I remember I asked one, like, my first week, I was like, what's one of your biggest, like, pet peeves? And they were like, people who ask those kinds of questions. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like language changes and it morphs, and, like, I don't use irregardless. We mentioned irregardless is it's not standard. If you have to choose between the two, but it's in the dictionary.
It's in The Sopranos, John, even more importantly.
If it's in the greatest TV show of the 21st century, I feel like it's so that's what so they're forgiving, not permissible. I think that's a great word, because I was going to say permissible, but that's not true. They're forgiving, and it's like, we all have typos. We all make mistakes. If you misspell a word, it's not the end of the world. Like, no one's going to misspell entrepreneur on the first try ever. Why is Colonel pronounced that way? It doesn't make any sense. But you can learn through the etymology that, like, oh, okay, I can kind of see the logic of it now. And so is it important? I have no idea. But I'm glad it exists personally, not just from, like, an ambitious professional, because, like, well, it's like our Super Bowl. But I do love that, like, I'm very impressed when I watch it and I see these kids, because I have no idea. And to see them break down a word, I find that, like, just interesting and cool. And again, like, it's a celebration of the words. We use it every day. It's, like, so interesting how, like, we type now more than we talk, and it's so weird to think of it that way. Like I keep in touch with my friends all day long. I haven't talked to them on the phone in a month. Yeah. You know what I mean? But we're on, like, 5 group chats. It's so weird. And you have to be able to communicate effectively, and usually that involves spelling the word as close as you can to the right way, quote unquote, so people understand what you're trying to say. But yeah, so I think it's important, but I'm very biased. Full disclosure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
thinking ahead to the future, right? We mentioned, what is going to be, do you think, the future of even the concept of brand trust over time? We've seen how it's, just completely devolved. We've seen rapid shifts in the types of brands that are trust. What do you think is important for marketers going forward to know about trust?
That's a great question. I think the terms of conditions change so rapidly now, and I think, again, like, an analogy I like to use is, like, we used to be on, like, a Earth-like planet with, like, seasons that you could, like, everything's gonna be kind of the same every year. You do your Christmas ad, you do this, blah blah blah. Like, we're on a gas giant now. Like, it's constantly changing, and you have to constantly adjust your sales. And I think being agile and really trying to connect with people builds trust. And if you go out to try to build trust, it probably won't work. Like, that can't be the objective. Because that's an agenda. Like that's like kind of like, that's like networking, right? Like, that's like, I'm gonna go network, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that's, hey, like, there's something that feels very like I'm being used. And so, man, the future, I have no clue. I imagine it will change rapidly every year of, like, what strategies work, what to do. And I imagine it would probably, I think people will be more forgiving of missteps also as well. Like, when brands put their foot in their mouth or something because something happened that they didn't, they'd had a post scheduled. I personally think people won't, like, distrust them as much as they used to. Like, does that make sense? Like, I think they'll be like, oh, I get that. That happens. This world is crazy. Okay. I think consumers will be a little, like, it's, some people are, there's data breaches of DNA. Like, it wasn't that. There's some, that's how the problems have gotten so bad that, like, it's, no offense to anyone who did that, but, like, I feel like we will be more forgiving as people who enter. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm finding that to be true. Like, things that are, like, mistakes or cancelable, like, missteps can kind of help sometimes even be like a relatability, like, increased relatability, and be like, yeah, we've all been, okay, that's a bad day, it's fine. And if the way you handle those honestly and authentically and, not try to spin it, I think could be an opportunity. I think to make this really long answer make any sort of sense, I think the opportunities to build trust will increase way more, because how you talk, I think the platforms are going to get very different. Like, how you speak on one is going to be different than how you speak on the other. It's already that way for a lot, just even in terms of what you compose. And I think, like, you're going to have to just be able to, like, code switch very quickly. if you want to build more trust.
Absolutely. In that opinion,
And I think that
yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, I think that, if I stitch together a few themes that you've touched on, and I don't have a way to measure this directly in the data, but thematically it comes through. It's okay to be an authority.
Yeah.
It's not okay to be authoritarian.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
Right?
I could not agree with anything more.
Like you can be like a respected institution that stands for something, but you should also be a little bit playful. Yeah, and you should be forgiving. And you should neither pretend that you're perfect because you're going to make mistakes, nor should you expect other people to be perfect. Right? And so I think there's we're kind of in it together, and
yes.
we have this particular specialized expertise or point of view, and we want to share it with you. But we're not going to impose it on you.
If you say fewer instead of less, or less instead of, I know what you mean. Lay or lie. This is, again, I think we got problems. This ain't it. You know what I mean? And I feel but we also can't be anything goes, because that's not our role. And we don't believe that. We don't believe anything goes.
The absence of rules is chaos. We don't want chaos.
Yes, we need to have established rules on how to and what words mean. When my father was what does Riz mean? I was let's look it up, because I feel 1,000 years old when I say Riz. And so we look it up, and it's in the dictionary now. And it's that's helpful. And
then you're never allowed to say it out loud in front of anyone under the age of 15.
I know, but it's in the vernacular. Now you're not lost. You know what it is. You don't feel. It's when the older you get, the world changes so fast. You just kind of get mad at it, and it's this can be kind of a compass to help you, go into these weird social language, frontiers. Here you go. We have something for you. You don't have to use it. That's also a great thing about words. I think people don't realize you don't have to use the word if you don't want to. But it's important to have an authority, especially now because everything's chaos. But also let's not yell at people. That's already happening a lot. That's the last thing anyone needs is the dictionary screaming at someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
A mistake.
And to your point about forgiveness, we have seen through our data that the overall strength of a brand before kind of moments of breaks of trust, for example, we looked at the comparison of United Airlines and what happens when there's a big airline issue with them versus an Uber. United Airlines tends to be transportation, it's a commoditized brand, versus Uber, right? It's a momentum leader, it's a disruptor. Even some pretty significant safety issues have happened on their platform, but their brand bounces back faster after those moments of breaches in trust because it's starting from a much higher place of overall strength. And so in some ways, investing in your brand, in branding and being committed to a brand such as Merriam-Webster and that consistency actually can insulate you from those moments where inevitably trust is going to be breached. So
existing is a risk, right? Just existing, especially on social platforms. That's why you've seen many leave certain platforms. And I think for some, they shouldn't be on. Not everyone should tweet. I don't know if I make fake hips, I don't know if I need to be tweeting. You know what I mean? That's insane.
Did you just say fake hips, John?
Yeah, but every now and then you see a brand you're what are you doing? You're a water testing thing. But it doesn't feel authentic that you would even show up at this party. And it's knowing what room. I mean, all brands are cops. And so, you show up at a party, you're not invited. Social media is not for brands. It's for humans. So you have to be hyper aware of, hey, hi, I know. I wasn't invited. I brought dip. I know. I'm going to leave early. Don't worry. You have to kind of, you're crashing a party. And having that, being gracious towards the hosts, I feel a lot of brands don't do. And I feel you have to just kind of, tip the hat, oh, I'm okay. I'm going to leave. Don't worry. I'm not going to clog up your timeline. I'm not going to reply to everything just to get engagement. Because again, engagement, what is that? It's so vague. It drives me crazy. I think that's very important. I'm fascinated with that Uber airline thing, though. That's fascinating, United Airlines. And that makes sense to me, when I hear it out loud, but I guess I never thought of it that way. that they can just, maybe because it's also isolated incidences, I don't know. It's never like 4,000 Ubers missed Christmas, you know?
Right.
Like, yeah, or we don't give bailouts. You know, maybe that's also it. I don't know. That's just fascinating.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah, ooh, okay,
You guys
sure.
know a lot more about data
Please.
than me. And you can also not answer or cut this. But like, what is something where like you don't have to name the brand, but like you've seen something in the data that you're like, this does not jive with how I thought like it would be. Like my anecdotal experience with this brand would be like, and it could be a positive thing, so we're not like making fun of anyone, but like, have you ever been like completely surprised by the data based on your own personal history or experience with a brand?
I'll give you a fun one, and then
Okay.
Jason can do a little prep from the actual BAV data set. I am
Okay.
always shocked, and I don't know if it's an urban legend or not, at ANU data, attitude and usage data around toilet paper. Apparently only something like 98% of people use it. So yeah, whenever I see that, although I did get served an ad for reusable
Bidet.
toilet paper the other day on Instagram.
Really,
So-
like you keep it in your house? Oh,
and then you
well,
wash it. Yeah. So anyway,
good
shocking,
for them.
but
They're-
good for them,
They're doing
right?
their part. They're better than me.
You mentioned climate change, so everyone needs to do their part.
Like, they're doing it. Like that's probably what's doing it.
Jason, do you have a better data point?
Well, I mean, look, we have so much data and so many brands that I'm continually surprised, right? Like it's almost dangerous to start going into the data because you'll find something surprising that'll lead you to the next question. But one that has really leapt out to me in the past couple of years. You may be familiar with Greyhound Bus.
Yeah.
Greyhound
Use
Bus
them.
is a punching bag among marketers.
What?
It is like marketers consistently talk about Greyhound as a low strength, low stature brand, right?
Seems-
Uninteresting, tired, and
Utilitarian.
when you look among all adults, Greyhound does not show up as a particularly interesting brand. When you look at males, females, young, old,
I mean, yeah,
all
you don't
these
want to
different
take a bus.
slices.
No one's gonna like. I feel like, yeah.
Right? Greyhound, it's like the worst transportation option.
Yeah.
But if you look at how Greyhound customers perceive Greyhound,
No, love it.
Greyhound customers perceive Greyhound the same way that
It solves the
Chevy
problem.
owners perceive Chevy.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Right? Like
That makes sense too.
among Greyhound customers, Greyhound is like your absolute favorite airline. And when you stop and think about it, like if you're poor or you're afraid of flying,
yes.
or you live in a part of America that is very, very remote
it really
from an airport,
solves, it's a key that opens a lock. It really is.
it gives you freedom,
Oh my God, that's fascinating.
right? And then I went down the rabbit hole and started researching the company. I'm like, man, their buses are refreshed and nice.
They're not. It's fun. I mean, it's great.
The seat are like first class airline seats. They got onboard Wi-Fi, and I'm just like, I love this.
It's like better
Right?
than trains too, because you don't get super delayed like you do with Amtrak sometimes. Like, no offense to Amtrak, but like, oh, that's fast. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's so much ways to quantify the qualitative with this kind of work too. Sometimes it can be like very overwhelming, like the KPIs and like do we care about impressions? Do we care? Like what do we care about? And I think that's always like a case by case basis. Like when people always ask that question, I'm always like, I don't know. It's up to it's whatever you have to decide that, for your brand. It's not a universal thing. And I think people think it's a universal thing like sports statistics, but I don't think it is.
Absolutely.
But I'm willing to learn.
Yeah. Well, we are so happy that you crashed our party today,
thank you.
John. I'm
It
going to
was so
close
fun to
this
talk with
out
y'all.
with one last surprise question. What's your favorite word?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. My favorite word right now at the moment is sweater weather, because I love it. You know exactly what it means. I love the fall. I love layers, and I just like sweater weather. I know exactly what it means. I love it that it's like self-evident, but it also is. You need the definition of it, so that's mine.
It's a vibe.
Sweater.
It's a vibe. Jason.
What about y'all?
Oh, yeah. How about you, Jason?
I mean, my favorite word right now, because I'm I'm mentally stuck on it is bewildered.
Oh, that's a good one.
I am frequently bewildered and befuddled. And
I like bewildered because it sounds like 2 words. It's like I bewilder. You know, I currently bewilder. I think that's
well, and I love joining it with what, at least in my mind, is its close cousin, befuddled.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. It reminds me a little bit of like verputzt, in that like I can use it a couple of different ways. But yeah, I love me some bewildered. I love me some befuddled.
Nice.
And Laura, what you got? What's
I
favorite word?
love the word transmogrification.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Calvin and Hobbes reference.
I'm gonna bust it out to you. Yeah, the transformation of something to another thing that is so different and unrecognizable, it's almost comical. I think might be the definition.
I'm gonna have to look it up. I bet
Call
you.
me out.
That's a bet. And I bet you it's one of those like great etymologies where like you see it spelled out and like, yep, that's exactly what, like those are 4 Latin words that's what it does. I find that very comforting. We're like, that's what we made a word. We just took 4 and put it together.
We will look it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary and then put the actual definition in the show notes.
Please do. Please do. I'd love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all the time we have for today. John, I hope you had as much fun coming to our opinion party. And remember, everyone is invited to opinion party. So if you've heard something you like or you want to invite more party, just to the party, so hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And you can find, as I just mentioned, all of our VIP content on our show notes and on our website, theopinionparty.com. And for more data about what we mentioned in this episode, head over to bavgroup.com and vml.com, our show sponsors. Thank you so much, John, and it was fun partying with you today. Take care.
Thank you.